we've probably had an up and down year. We've had obviously Soul. I should tell you about Soul. So Soul obviously is predominantly feeding homeless and vulnerable people. So disadvantaged too. So our primary thing is every day we feed a meal to them. So that can look like a hot meal, a frozen meal. We do hygiene packs, all of that sort of thing to look after people. And then we call ourselves the one-stop shop where people can come in and get counselling. They can get, we've got a mental health nurse, we've got doctors, we've got podiatrists, legal aid, and all different services, Centrelink, that all come in here. And then obviously that's a safe spot for these people to come in and obviously get the next help. So our motto is obviously more than a meal. So our meal is probably our open door to get into communication and to probably get trust and just hear people's stories, because every story is different. So you can't put everyone in the one box. You've got to keep unpacking all different things. So we run our smart recovery programs, we're running NA, we're running all different things as well. So this year, probably like many, got thrown into chaos. I don't know what the word is. Obviously with COVID and all new to everybody. So, and it was a really, I think we've had a dual role. We've seen both probably a really great year, which sounds probably terrible, but a great year of seeing community and business people and everyone come together for us. So we've kept going all year. I made a pact with our guys. I had all these plans that we're not shutting. I think there was 1 week where they said, we've got to shut. And I said, we're not shutting. So get it out of your head. Because I thought, who's going to look after them? You know, in this epidemic, and, you know, everyone was shutting around us, and we thought, you know, we just can't do it. So that was a big one for us, that we just said, no, you know, how do we keep safe? How do we do it all? Obviously we've stuck very close to all the guidelines that have been recommended. So we actually started feeding on the street corner. So some of you probably have seen that along the journey, which has been a really good, and look, to our credit, you know, yes, we've had a few blow ups and stuff, which is quite normal, but the guys and the girls that have come through have been just so grateful. And, you know, when you get comments like, you know, we don't know where we would have been without yous, you know, how their mental health has been just a massive thing, because a lot of our people live by themselves. So the mental health stage of people was just no families, no anybody. So if we weren't here, they'd be struggling. So that's been a big one. But we've just been so blessed by the community. And, you know, you guys all know we tried to do our sleep out this year, and we got our sleep at home, which was just mind-blowing, of the generosity. But just people that came along and said, you know, we've stood on the corner and people have given us brown paper envelopes with money in them, just saying. So, but we've had people come along and like, just give us money. What do you need? Here's a tin of food. Here's something to give to anybody. So from all different ranges of people as well. One of the big things we did is we've been inundated with food. Like the amounts of food that have come through our door is just mind-blowing. So we started a pantry service as well. So 3 days a week, anybody in the public can come through and pick up their fruit and veg, like tin foods, hygiene products. You know, we've had all our clothes range through winter that people could come and get. So we're still running that. We're probably doing still about 200 hampers or more a week as well, on top of our normal service that we're doing. So, and we've seen all different ranges of people from, you know, obviously some of our guys have come through who are at home, who can cook. And then we've had people who have lost their job. We've had families come through. We've had single mums come through with kids. We've had chefs come through that have lost their job, that couldn't survive. So that's been a whole range of people that have come through as well. So does that give you a bit of an overview? I don't know.
Yes,
But we're
it
still
certainly
here.
does give us an overview.
Can I
And
tell you
what's
a
it
little?
been like for the volunteers? There's a lot of shift.
Yeah, we've had some, obviously because numbers dropped very quickly with volunteers for all different reasons. So whether they were in another job and they weren't allowed to come in, and obviously that older bracket of our guys had to get cut because I think it was about 60, or if you were 60 or 70, they were recommending you not come in at one point. So that wiped out a lot of our volunteers. But we've had some guys and girls that have come through with, we've had like 10, 12 people run nearly a whole week on shifts. And so they're all starting to gradually come back now, which has been great for them. So they're all starting to, come back. We had a lot of people that wanted to volunteer. So that's been a really hard juggle because obviously with numbers and COVID, you can't have too many people in the building at certain times, even in that sort of distancing as well. You've got to balance, so all of that sort of thing. And then you've got to have not too many new volunteers versus we've still got all our regular volunteers. So when things do open up, you don't want to have all these people that are trying to come in and volunteer that can't volunteer. So, but we've had some like amazing stories, and we haven't tried to take a lot of new volunteers. We've had a few come in. It's funny you say that. We've got one of our guys, we call him Vegs because he's a vegan, and his name's James. And I remember being on the street and he's about 26, 27, and he walked past one day, and I think we were only just new on the street. And he came past and just looked really down. He stopped and he sort of said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And we told him, and he said, "Oh, can I volunteer?" And I knew we weren't taking volunteers, and of course I would never disobey Matt at any time. I said, "Yeah, you can come and volunteer." I just wanted to adopt him. I don't know. And I don't know, it's just one of them moments where I just thought he just looked like he was struggling. And I said, "I'll come and see me tomorrow." And I don't know. And anyway, so he came in, and so he lost his job through, he's an engineer in the planes, lost his job, came back, and his family lived in Melbourne, so he couldn't get to Melbourne, had a breakup with his fiancée, which is a pretty upsetting one for him. I think they were about to get married and it just all went belly up. So he's just basically wandering around Newcastle, alone by himself, suffering probably a little bit of depression, just sort of like that crash, like when people just go, "I just can't," you're in COVID, just lost. And so we took him on board, and he's been one of our great volunteers. So he works in a bike shop as well, and come through COVID, and it was really interesting last week because he went for back to a job in the plane area in his field of engineering. And I told him he wasn't allowed to get a job in Sydney, he wasn't allowed to get a job in Melbourne, but he could get a job in Newcastle. And he's like, "I just need to get a job now." And I'm like, "Well, they're our rules." Anyway, so he went for a job in Newcastle last week, and he did an interview, and then he was standing on the street corner. It was really interesting. He was on the street corner, and the boss rang him while he was standing on the street feeding the homeless, and the boss rang him and said, "You've got a job." So he finishes with us today, but he's going to do a Friday brekkie for us. And he's back with his fiancée. They've worked it all out. He's been through all the other volunteers just rallied him. Like, it was like the big family came to the rescue of this young guy. So it's just a great story. And he said, "I don't know where I'd be, seriously, if it wasn't for Soul." And he's got all the grandmas here that cooking vegan slices, and I don't know. But that's so it's amazing watching just one situation like that he said, I honestly don't know where I would have been without it. Young, pretty clued up, young man. And he's actually, am I allowed to say anything let's just say it. We're doing a soul calendar. So he's in the soul calendar. There's a hint. Not that I'm allowed to tell anybody, but I'm telling everybody now. So it's all right.
It's an amazing story, Sue. I think that often the impression is that the beneficiary or the people that really benefit is the homeless person living on a street who needs some food and needs some, some medical support or something along those lines. But yeah, we have an example of how much Sol has been able to help a young man through the volunteering, through having an opportunity to contribute and connect. At a time when, his system desperately needed that. And, 6 months earlier, probably everything was on track for him, and there was no hint of that despair. So, it's just a really amazing example. What have you noticed? There's lots of reports that there's been tension in family units with the COVID situation and also job loss. Have you seen an increase in people seeking out your support or the support from Sol?
Yeah, I think we've seen a mixture. I don't know whether it's been we haven't seen a huge increase. We've seen people who, the biggest thing we've had to do is talk. I know this probably sounds a bit odd, but it's the only way I can describe it is sort of normal people who've lost jobs and stuff, who that humility of coming to get help. Does that make sense? So like they'll say, oh, I can't come and get the pantry food because although it's open to anybody, is because I'm going to take food out of, the homeless people. So it's like that. I'd rather not take it for my family because I'm going to take food off them. So for us, it was really saying to people, it's okay. Like, please come and take our food because we were inundated. And I said to him, our guys' first priority, obviously, is for us, is our homeless, our disadvantaged, people who have got addictions. So obviously that's our top priority. But I said, then we've got all this other stuff that we can give you. And just that telling people it's okay. We want to help. We don't want to, hoard stuff or keep stuff, or there's only so much food you can give to the homeless as well. So, I think that was an education of people just to be able to, put their hand up and say, I'm struggling. Like they've never had to do that either. So that was a big thing. I remember a couple came, beautiful couple, now probably in their late 50s, and look, pretty well dressed, had jobs, and they were asking about Sol, and I remember the lady put her head down and she said, oh, we're actually here to get food, and I sort of went, like being honest, didn't look homeless, didn't look disadvantaged, sort of looked like normal people. And I said, what? I said, of course you can, darling. And said, I just can't come in. I just can't do it. And I said, yeah, you can. I said, yeah, you can. I said, we're here for everybody, whether, you're here on the streets or whether, you've lost your job or whatever that looks like. And she'd saying that her husband had to have an operation, then obviously lost his job because he had to take time off work. His business went under. They were struggling to keep their house going, like paying the rent and all that sort of, they were just in a mess. And like, she was in tears when we gave her a couple of bags of food, and she said, oh, when we get money, we'll pay it back. And we're like, no. I said, you can do one thing for me. This is a Wednesday. And she said, all right, what would you like us to do? We'll do anything you want. I said, all right, you got to come back on Friday and get more food. And she went, I said, because you need good people. That's what we do. And, gave them a hug, and they came in on Friday, and, you could just see that relief of like, it's okay to put your hand up, and it's like that good old saying when people go, oh, how you going today? And your life could be a mess, and you're, oh, fine. And, it's trying to break those walls down and go, it's okay to have a bad day. It's, it's all right no matter who you are, to do that. So that's been a big thing we've learnt through it as well, So.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are facing challenges that they probably never faced and possibly never imagined they'd faced. And we happen to live in a community where, And it's probably not just the community here. This could be a global thing where the sense of independence is, you know, tightly held. So, you know, to be able to break that down and get past that blockage of putting your hand up for help when you need some help is a big thing for, I think, probably for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Good on you. Good on you.
That's a question. So, on the news, we saw a lot of stories about the government stepping in and providing accommodation to people who were homeless in capital cities, particularly during the lockdown, so that they could actually isolate. Did much of that happen here? Did they come to the party and find accommodation?
So, say the question again. Sorry.
The government step up
Yep.
during COVID in terms of finding accommodation for people who are homeless? Did they put them up in hotels like they were doing in Sydney and those places?
Yep.
And did any of them get ongoing accommodation?
I think it's a bit of a mixture. Like I know a lot of our guys got some accommodation. Like we got some of our guys who are on the streets because I think they went out and went almost like a big scoop and got them off the streets and put them in the motels. I think for some it's worked, and I think for a lot it hasn't worked, because I think people haven't understood you're taking someone out of their home. So some of our guys who are on the streets, that's actually their home. And you're like, that's like me walking in and going, oh, hey, Matt, come on, let's go, pulling you out and putting you somewhere else where that's their home. I think the biggest problem they've had is the guys that we've dealt with is they've still got their addictions. And I think what they do is they take them out, they throw them into a room. The rooms to me aren't suited because they can't cook. A lot of them don't even have a fridge. So it's like an ibis room you go to. You know, you got a jug. If you're lucky, you might have a microwave. So where do they get then their food? And then they've still got their addiction. So their ice addiction doesn't go away because you put them in another room. So you've got a lot of our guests that we've dealt with are like, yeah, it's great, Sue, we're going into these motels, but so is everybody else. So that's where you're getting now in the way some of the criminal guys who've got their ice addictions, their alcohol addictions, getting put into these confined motel rooms all together, and it's not going to work because the addiction's not gone. So they're still shooting up their ice in the rooms. They're still going off their heads when they're drunk. They're still thrashing rooms, and now they're getting into trouble because they're thrashing their motel rooms because they haven't changed. And some of them don't know how to go into that situation, into rooms. And then we've got guys who are coming out shoplifting, which is bizarre because now some of them have to pay. Like the government will take them in for 2 weeks, and probably if they're good, they probably can move in. And some of them have moved, like I know probably a few that have moved in and done really well, but they don't have a strong addiction. I think the ones with all the addictions, the ones that have just come out of jail, the ones that have done all that sort of stuff, they've just thrown them into these motel rooms. They all get together. Then they invite their friends around. Hey, got a room tonight, coming around. So then you could have 3 or 4 people in their room. So it's just that ongoing. And then you've got guys who are going into rooms who then have to fight off a communal kitchen. So you can't put your food in your room. You've got to put it in the commercial kitchen like everybody else. And so what do you do when you've got no money? You flog everyone else's food. Then if you flog everyone's food, then you have the punch-ups, then you get the police, then they're all back to see Rob. You know, so you've got to sit down on a table and go, what does it really look like? You know, which is really hard. And we work really well with housing, like especially probably we've got a guy called Sasha. And some of them, like I said, have done really well. And then there's the others that, you know, they're just different people that it just does work for some, doesn't work. And our motels are getting thrashed. I know at least 3 or 4 motels around here that they've all been shoved in, and they're just like, Sue, we're out of here, mate. I don't want to. I'm better off on the street than being stuck in a motel next to an ice dealer. You know, so they need a round table, but we can't get invited to some round tables because we're not government funded. So that's our issue. So if we're not government funded, we're not allowed on the big tables. Because we don't know anything. No, we do know something. You can tell it's my pet hate, isn't it?
Well, it's a very complex situation, isn't
housing. Come and see me.
So who can you reach out to, or is there some groups that communicate around this? And
well, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, it's unfortunate. It's not a one solution fix all, and when you put that into that, it doesn't work. Like, it's a similar story, obviously, when you've got people with addiction. You know, we've got our housing crisis at the moment, and we're putting a lot of housing into one area of, you know, I've got about 9 guys at the moment that are sleeping on the streets who have got a housing, but they don't want to be in the housing because they've got the drug dealer, they've got the fighting, they're sick of people banging on their door at night. The housing community, I think they've got to somehow come up with an idea of just stop putting everyone together. You know, like, and look, you know, the talk around is, you know, your Hamilton South, your Light Street, Brown Street. I think there's a group over at Stockton. They're just going, you come out of prison, here you go with all your addictions, all your problems, let's just throw you back into the mix. And again, you've got some guys who'll just go back and do it. You've got some guys who go, I don't want to go back into that environment, but they don't have options. So they're coming out, you know, going back in there going, but if you lose your house, so if you come out of housing and go, I don't want it anymore, then it's like you're back to the bottom. You know, you can't get transferred. It's just all of that. I don't think there's a fixed answer, but I think, you know, mixing people up with the genuine ones who really, and we've got some genuine ones who really want to get out of it, try and get some jobs, try and do it well, but it's so hard for them because of mistakes that they've made. You know, they come out of, like, we had 43 people come out of prison in the beginning of COVID in 3 weeks that walked past Seoul. So why would you do a prison release in the beginning of COVID with all these prison releases and throw them on the streets when services are shut? They haven't got a computer to go on. Some don't have phones to do things, but let's throw them on the street and hope they're going to get accommodation, hope they're going to get a job and go back to normal. So, you know, 43 people were out of prison in 3 weeks in the middle of COVID.
And is that a lot, Sue?
Yeah.
Like, if it was outside of COVID, is that the sort of, that is a lot?
I think that was a lot, because we were seeing a couple nearly every day and we're like, what's going on? Like, and I talked to a couple of prison guys that we know through volunteers here, and like one guy's up at Cessnock, and I said, ask him what's going on, and he said they're just releasing them. So there was no official COVID, got to get him out or whatever. I think it was an outlet to get him out. So,
and what's the proportion? So you have the feeding and the food services, and you also have the other services. You know, you talk about the mental health and the doctors and help with Centrelink. What are the proportion of people that come along for a meal who then engage with Soul at that sort of deeper level, where the relationship is built such that they are looking to, maybe, change some habits or change some behaviours, which I believe for many people that would be quite a long process, quite a long journey.
Yeah.
But what's it like? Do you have a gauge of that? 50% of the people that turn up are there 12 months later working on themselves? Or?
I think I'd probably easily go 70 to 80%.
Wow.
That somewhere they will touch one of those services. So one of the big things we did when we were on the street, because obviously we're trying to keep our social distancing, not trying to gather. So we're trying to do all we can, obviously, with vulnerable people. So one of the things we still did all the way through COVID was we do our street corner across the road. So we had like our mental health team was across the road, and we had one or two what we call our floor team that go around and talk to our guests to get them that help. And obviously we had our phones on us. So we've got like, you know, our guy connection down at Centrelink. We've got an outreach guy down there who was regularly coming into Seoul as well. So he, you know, obviously direct calls to him, direct calls to Milton Sales at Brunker Road, you know, if we got really desperate. So we linked up all our phone contacts through COVID as well, which really helped. And like I said, our Sasha down at housing, he does above and beyond, you know. So there's some great people we keep trying to link, and there's a whole range of obviously other services that we can ring up and say, you know, it's Seoul, we've got this guy, we're trying to do this. And look to the credit through this all too, our police have been great. We've had a lot of, you know, we've had some bad incidents with, we've lost 3 of our Seoul guests in the last month and a half. So we've had a few guys like that that we've lost during all this. We had 2 overdoses, and we're not sure on the 3rd one. And also we had the young guy who you might have heard that fell off the balcony down in Watt Street. So he was part of our group. So so we've had to work with him, and then the girlfriend, and then the cousin, that were all present. And obviously they're on the road when he passed away. We've also got one of our girls who's probably crossed church and soul. She's been a guest here and been part of our church. Well, she was a young lady who obviously went off Bar Beach cliff. So she's been part of ours as well. And so we're still working with her, and you know, just hearing her story, and you know, she's obviously still in the mud, and obviously, you know, she's now got to face court, and we know actually the lady and the little child who was unfortunately who, you know, the car landed on as well. So we know both. So so that's been a, you know, a real traumatic, you know, to have some of our guests that know her, but also we probably know the brother of the girl. But seeing even that there's no, you know, there's no hurt or animosity, you know, from the lady with the young child who was hit. Like, she's got a total understanding of why she did and what happened, and, you know, how that's going to work out as well. So there's been some big things like that around Seoul that, you know, we've just been obviously with our guests that have been involved in all of that as well. So
what do you, how do you handle all this yourself, Sue? Because I've had many conversations with you, and it kind of feels like you're everyone's mother, and you're dealing with some really Mother Duck. Yeah, well, that's probably about right. I wouldn't want to get in trouble from Mother Duck, actually. Just
they do get in trouble.
So, you know, how do you handle all of this? It's a massive, you know, it's huge what you do there.
Yeah, I think for us, I think it's pretty got a lot to do with, obviously, you know, I've got key support guys around me as well that you can probably be really vulnerable with. But I think too with the team here, you know, we probably practical joke a lot around the place, and I think that's a good mechanism too. Sometimes it probably offends some of our other volunteers who probably aren't as jokeable as us. But I think it's just we just brief, you know, like I remember we've got a guy at the moment who's causing us some grief, and we love him to bits, and we go round and round the mountain with him every week, and he's learnt the word responsible yesterday, so good luck. Hopefully he might. But what, no service will touch him because he's naughty and he's been bad and he's burned every bridge in the whole of Newcastle and Sydney and Central Coast and every service. And Rob's probably seen him a number of times. But, you know, what do you do? He has got no other help. We've done all the service calls, we've done everything. And look, he's done it. Like, we're not defending him. He's been naughty and horrible, but he rocks up to us every day. And we just keep going, here's the next step. Here's the next step. Let's try and get this step, because there's no one else for him. So we were getting some really good runs on the board with him. And so we're having a really good day. And then, you know, within an hour, I got a call to say, do I know this young girl? And I did know her. And she was part of our guest. And they'd found her at home, had done an overdose. I don't think she'd done, I think someone else had done it, and had passed away. And our Matt, who's our GM, you know, he'd been doing some work with her with the police, and we were trying to get help and all that sort of thing. So, and I remember having to, you know, tell Matt, you know, that I've just found out, you know, this young girl's, you know, we've lost her. And, you know, you feel that could there have been something else you could have done? Is there another phone call you could have made? And I think it's just those moments where I remember coming, Matt said he saw the look on my face when I took the call. He didn't know what the call was. And I just sort of went, yeah, just going upstairs for a minute. I'll be back. And sort of sat up there for about, I don't know, 10 minutes. And he sort of came up, and, you know, we just sat there, and I said, I just got to tell you something, and obviously told him, and tears. And so, you know, we have the tears moment, and we just sit and go, you know, gave him a hug. He doesn't like hugs. So I think it's those moments too where we, you know, we can just lock ourselves away, or, you know, sit with a volunteer and just say, it's okay, you know, whether we do those moments of crying. And I think it's that family environment that was set. So it's like in any family, you have your good days, you have your tear days, you have your bad days, you have your cranky days, and I think we've all learnt it's okay to have any of those days here. You know, I think the other week I had a bit of a cranky day where people were just leaving things around, and I was like, they're like, watch out, cranky mother ducks on the warpath, you know, you better hide. But then the next day it's like, yeah, you know, you just need those days. I think it's in business and family, and I think we've just created that good culture of it's okay, you know.
So the question I asked is, how do you cope, or how do you manage yourself? And what you're telling me is some vulnerability in it. There's it's sharing and working together, and having that team of people around you where you can be yourself. You can share concerns. You can sit there and disclose that I'm thinking that maybe there was something else we could have done, or maybe like all of that openness. Is what supports you, and I'm sure it's what supports the other people there as well, eh? And perhaps that's something all of us can take away.
Yeah, and I think
that's something all of us can take away for our own space.
Yeah, and I think it's that big word is that vulnerability. It's just okay. It's okay to get angry. It's okay to have a fight with a volunteer. It's okay to. That good. They're all doing sign language through the door at me. I'm going, I can't see you. But I think that's our biggest thing that we've taught all our volunteers, when you come in here, your family, and we say it to our guests all the time, and that's been a big thing for our guests. It's okay. I said, we've seen it all. You're not going to shock us. Unless, I don't know, they've done something really wacko, but most of all, we've seen, and when they muck up or when they do something wrong, it's like they know. Like, we had one of our guys who went on a 4-day binge drinking because he couldn't fill out a form for Centrelink. I don't know why, but anyway, and he ran a bit of a muck for the day and a bit naughty. And I said to Matt, he'll be here at 9 o'clock in the morning, horrified of what he's done. So 9:03 rocked up, head down, and we say to him, he said, oh, I'm really sorry. And That's okay. I said, we get back on, we go again. Now, if you came to us first, we would have made a phone call and you wouldn't have to go on a 4-day binge drinking episode. So he's gone, okay,
right.
maybe I don't go on the 4-day binge episode.
Mm.
But, you know,
Yeah.
and it's okay to make mistakes. So I think we teach a lot of that in our culture, or we try to, obviously, the best we can. And we get it right and we get it wrong. But we always pick each other up and go, you know, we stuffed that. Okay, let's go and do that. Oh, we didn't send that email. We didn't follow up. We didn't do. Okay, what can we do that's better? So we have a saying here like brilliant basics. Just do the basics. Keep things simple. Don't make it overcomplicated and enjoy what you do. If you're not going to enjoy what
Excellent,
you do,
Sue.
then don't be here. I don't know.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, leading up to Christmas, you usually do some sort of a hamper drive or something along those lines. Is that happening this year? Oh,
Yes.
hold it still.
Of course we do. So we get.
So what are you doing?
Can you all keep a secret? I'll know where it came from
Yes.
if it gets leaked to the media. Raz, I'm looking at you. Okay. So we got a bit of exciting news because a big thing with our Christmas party, because obviously due to numbers, it's very hard to obviously have it here because we normally do the 3 big settings. So this year we've gone after West down on King Street. What are they called? Nexus, whatever it is, that place. So our Christmas party will be held there this year.
Wow.
I'm taking all my guests out for lunch. So excited. I haven't even told Matt yet. I'm too excited. No, it came through last night. So they're allowing us to do it. So it could be really good or I could be on NBN. Every one of the two. But I'm so excited.
That's amazing.
So they all get to go out to dinner. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
So are you looking for contributions from the community to assist with, meals or hampers over that period? What are you looking for?
We obviously shut our door during Christmas and New Year, but we run what we call our express services. So they get their Christmas hamper deal. So this is their holiday hamper, we call it, because we've already got their hampers mainly for that. So on Christmas lunch, they get a big boxed hamper. So which we've nearly got all of them ready now. So they're all ready sort of to go. So we're after our Soul Cafe, like our holiday hampers for them. So during that time of Christmas to New Year sort of style before we reopen again. So that's all on the website. So you can help with groceries on that. So they're just full of all different grocery items. I think Matt put it up on the website last night and on our Facebook maybe. I don't know. I hope so. And then obviously people just want to make donations probably as our next bet this year. So we'll do our holiday hamper style and then we'll do just donations. The other thing we do is obviously, I think I've spoken to Matt too about this, is our obviously our toys. So obviously when we do our Christmas lunch, we do our Christmas buckets, we do our Share the Dignity handbags, where all the ladies get a nice handbag for Christmas. It's always filled with stuff. Then they get their hamper box, which is our groceries, and then we do our toys. So this week we're actually going up. We have got some leftover toys, I think, upstairs. So we're going to go through all that and do a list of what we need for like Christmas toys that people can donate, especially around teenagers. So a lot of people have got teenagers that sort of get a bit mixed, missed out a bit. They don't probably really want a shaving bucket sort of thing. So probably toys is the other one that we'll get a list of knowing where our gaps are. So they're probably our 3, probably toys, our hampers, our holiday hampers, and then obviously just donations. So
is there some way that you might be able, I could get an email maybe from Matt or yourself just with some things listed out, and I can send it on to our guys if anyone would like to make some contributions.
Yeah.
leading up to Christmas. Yeah.